Good afternoon and welcome to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we're doing today my sentiment on New Zealand and Australia. And then also there was some other news that actually came through, which was the story of Bitcoin. That is a bit scary there on Bitcoin. And then also there was some news out of Germany that came out regarding its producer price inflation. That was actually about a 30-year high. So that was actually some very strong news for inflation going forward for the European Union. But before I go on, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page, and please drop your comments. I will reply and answer any questions that you do have regarding today's show. So for today, actually for now, we're looking actually at Bitcoin just for now. Bitcoin actually dropped below the 30,000 mark, and that is a bit scary because now it leaves the door open for Bitcoin to drop even further, deeper into the 20, possibility actually below 20. But I would say maybe 20 for me if it goes that way. But let's look at the chart for Bitcoin. I'm just gonna share my screen with you. There we are. All right. So if you're looking at Bitcoin, Bitcoin is actually below. It did pierce there before. So it is actually now moving towards the 20 level. Now, if you can see here, I draw actually a line there at 20 because that is where it was sitting the last time. Now, hopefully, maybe Bitcoin can actually make a miracle and move back up again, hopefully. But as things stand, Bitcoin is below 20,000, and that is normally a scary picture for the Bitcoin miners. So I hope things do improve, but as things stand, it looks like Bitcoin can move to the 20,000 mark, which could be a bit of a problem for the Bitcoin miners. Also, the other cryptocurrencies besides now Bitcoin, we're looking at the XRP that also dropped. I think it dropped by 11%, and then Bitcoin is down with about 50% from where it was actually at around about the 60,000 level, 65,000 actually where it hit in April. So that is a bit scary for Bitcoin traders. So I hope there's something that can change, but as things stand, it's a high possibility that Bitcoin could drop actually to 20,000. Now, on the other news for Germany's producer price index actually came out at a 38-year actually high, where actually energy was the big driver of about 16%, and durable goods as well, and non-durable goods also pushed up the inflation. So normally with producer price inflation, it normally filters over to inflation, normal CPI, consumer price inflation. So there is a possibility where the CPI in Germany can actually increase. And well, Germany do have the story behind them with the Deutsche Mark the last time, where actually the currency was totally being printed out and was totally useless. So I think maybe there's a possibility that this might scare the Germans, and maybe they can push maybe the ECB to start actually to taper, because as it stands, it looked like the ECB is not in the mood actually to taper. Now, also other parts of the world, when it comes to inflation, also not big countries now, but if you look at Georgia, for example, the PPI of Georgia, it was up by 15.7%. If you look at the Czech Republic, it was also on a 10-year high. So you can see that the inflation across the world is actually playing out. So there's quite a lot of inflation, and that is actually coming to the point of actually New Zealand this morning, and also Australia, that was talking in the same language about heavy inflation. Now, if I look at the statement for actually New Zealand this morning, or the OCR, they were talking about lifting up the interest rate three times. And I will just actually share with you again this statement of New Zealand. Let me get there. This was by Westpac Economic Bulletin. I hope you guys can see there. I'm just actually going to touch on the most important parts, and this was the forecast for New Zealand. Now, we expect that the Reserve Bank of New Zealand will increase the cash rate by a 0.25 points at the time of August monetary policy statement, and this will be followed by a 0.25% increase at both October review and at the November monetary policy statement. Underlining our expectations for this of the rate hike are a sign of a solid momentum in the domestic economic activity, as well as a strong increase in inflation pressure. So this is what they project. So they project that the Reserve Bank of New Zealand may actually lift up the interest rate 3 times due to the inflation pressures that comes with it. So that's why I'm actually what I actually was calling the show today, that I'm bullish with New Zealand and Australia. Now, there is a bit of a question mark when it comes to Australia. There was actually a question for Australia. Will they actually now backtrack on the stimulus this morning? There was also a statement by the Reserve Bank of Australia. I will just go through that last part. Members acknowledged that an argument could be to retain the pace of bond purchases at 5 billion per week. Given economic outcomes, we still well short of the bank's goals for inflation and employment. However, the economic outcomes has been materially better than earlier expected, and the outlook had improved. In the light of these improvements and the agreement decision-making framework, members decide to adjust the weekly purchase from 5 billion to 4 billion Australian dollars and agree to review the rate of purchase at November 2021 meeting. Now, there was comments that Australia needs to backtrack on their tapering stance as what they're going through now, where it was 5 billion and then now they decrease it to 4 billion. Now, the reason for that was because that the Reserve Bank of Australia, or I would say Australia, is actually going through again a lockdown phase. So they were thinking of rather holding the stimulus because of the new lockdown phase that is actually happening in Australia. But as the Reserve Bank was stating, they did look at it, but they will still continue with the tapering of 1 billion from 5 billion to 4 billion. So then they will review it in November. Now, for me personally, with the inflation basically ripping all over the world, which is now New Zealand, Australia, Georgia that I just mentioned, Germany, even the Euro area, the United States, I think that Australia will stay to their framework of tapering when it comes to November. Now, in the essence of New Zealand, it looks like, for me, as I agree with the Westpac, they will actually lift up the interest rates because inflation do take time to get through. And that is where New Zealand is rather looking and preparing to hike interest rates. Also, on the other side, with the current situation in the globe, with the oil prices that were actually going down yesterday, and that actually brought down oil prices to about 67 level. Even the gold price actually held fairly firm yesterday. I think personally that was a bit of an exaggeration yesterday for the oil prices to go down so steeply. Although I did say oil price had the potential of going actually to $67 on Brent crude. You must remember that OPEC has it actually, I think they actually increased the supply to about 400,000. I think that personally is a drop in the ocean coming to the world, to global demand. So honestly, I personally think that oil prices will still go up. Gold prices, Australia, New Zealand, it will still go down. That is why bond yields on the 10-year yesterday also dropped. I think that was totally exaggeration yesterday. And I think the bulls will just come back and buy oil prices on the dip, or 67 on crude oil, and also the Australian and the New Zealand dollar for May. I will stay bullish with Australia, New Zealand. The fundamentals are there with them, even with the oil and with the gold. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Please don't forget to subscribe for my YouTube channel. And please, if you guys have questions, you can drop me your questions on the live show, and I will try my absolute best to answer them. That's it from my side. Have a lovely day, and I will see you guys then tomorrow at the same time at 1 o'clock. Bye-bye.